This is going to be a how-to for installing race fairings. The bike we're getting ready to install race fairings on is a Honda CBR 600R. It's a 2007. I've got some Armour Bodies bodywork that I'm going to install on here. The first thing I'm going to install is the tail. The reason I'll start with the tail is because it doesn't connect to anything else, so it's pretty much just straightforward fit on. Sometimes you have to trim a little bit under here or on the edges to make it fit properly. We'll do an initial fit and see how it does. Some of the basic tools that you're going to need for the installation is this drill and this step drill bit. The unibit, also known as a unibit, is one drill bit that allows you to drill a variety of size holes. You can start with a pilot hole and then just drill a small little hole with the tip of it, and then as you go deeper it drills a bigger and bigger hole. Scoop the tail section on. Looks like it's going to be a pretty good fit right off the bat. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to drill a small pilot hole in each one of these divots and make sure that the well nuts line up properly before we drill the holes out bigger. One thing you can do is if you drill a small pilot hole is you can kind of get an idea of where the hole is supposed to be, just to make sure it's lining up properly. And if it's off a little bit, when you drill the hole bigger, you can drill off to the side one way or another to make any small adjustments. Okay, now we have the tail section mounted on and all the bolts in. It's good and secure. Next we're going to mount this front fender on here, and I'll pre-drill these two holes and then a hole here for that ear to mount on right there. So we got these two mount points there, and then one there. So once again I'll drill a small pilot hole and these two mount points right here, and then I'll preliminary test fit the fender on there and then mark the ear. Got the holes drilled and mounting the fender on now with the front screws. We now have the fender secured, so we have all 3 bolts on each side in. Next I'll be mounting the tank cover. Usually it's only Hondas that have the tank covers. Most bikes don't have a tank cover, so this is an extra step required for this bike. But the only thing we need to do is test fit this on here like this. Looks like it fits good. There's only 2 holes that we need to drill for our bolts, and that's on each side right here by these leg panels. These front panels here we'll have to put these Zeus fasteners in when we mount the upper. The next part about mounting these race fairings up is probably the most critical. It's where the upper and lower are mounted on, and what you need to do is you need to be careful and have everything kind of mocked up and fitted together before you start drilling anything. Since especially on this bike, since the upper mounts to the tank cover up here, and it also mounts to the lower down here. So if you get it out of alignment, then it's going to throw off everything on how it all fits together. What I like to do is I like to take these little orange clamps and then as I fit the bodywork on here and get it positioned, I'll take these clamps and hold it like that together in the various mount spots so that I can kind of get it all mocked up ahead of time. Alright, now that I got the upper mounted on the bike somewhat with the clips just to kind of hold it in place. I'm going to hold this lower up here and mark a rough opening for these frame sliders so that I can get it kind of mocked up, and then I'll kind of mount it in place. Maybe put a couple small holes back here in the back because they're going to be exactly in one spot, and get that back section mounted up, and then I'll use the clamps to kind of hold this together up here and make sure all this is adjusted properly before we mark and drill the holes. Alright, I got the lower mocked up and temporarily mounted on there. I'm using these clips to hold it to the upper, and then we mounted the screw back in the back. It pretty much only goes in one spot, so we went ahead and drilled and used that to temporarily hold it on there. And then we just made a rough cut around here where the frame slider is, and then we'll trim that up in a little bit once we put the puck on there and trace around it after the fairings are finished mounted. The next thing I'm going to do is drill out these holes here for the upper fairing mount, the upper fairing stay mount point, and then once that's done, we'll drill these holes right here for that mount point, and then we'll mount the Zeus fasteners and the tank cover, and where the upper meets the lower. All right, I got the upper mounted on. And the screwed in and everything mocked up. The next thing I want to do is I want to mark where I'm going to put the Zeus fasteners in, where the upper meets the lower. The thing you have to be careful on here is that you want to check for clearance behind the fastener, where the fastener goes through the bodywork, and make sure you're not going to hit anything like a radiator hose or the radiator. You don't want the end of this vibrating and causing a leak of any kind. So what I do is I just kind of hold this up here like this, and then kind of check where this goes through and check for any clearance and make sure it's not going to rub on anything. Alright, I've went ahead and I've checked the clearance on the Zeus fasteners and made some marks here where I wanted to place the fastener, and then I've mounted the lower back on, and I've made the marks with a pencil where I want to drill the holes. One thing you have to be careful of is not to drill the holes too high, because then when you drill the big hole for the fastener to go through, it won't have a good amount of fiberglass above it so that it's strong. So the next thing we'll do is we'll drill some small pilot holes in here, and then I'll pull this off, and I'll use rivets to mount these backing plates on. I prefer the rivet-on backing plates as the slip-on so that they stay on better. Next thing I'm going to do is finish drilling out these pilot holes that I drilled for the Zeus fasteners. I'm going to drill them out big enough to put in to put a fastener all the way through the hole. Then after I drill out the main hole for the Zeus fastener to go through, then I'm going to hold the backing plate up and line it up. And then I'll take a pencil and mark the two small holes for the pop rivets to go in. Once I drill out those two small holes for the pop rivets, then I'll put the backing plate on there and use my pop rivet gun to pop rivet the backing plates in place. We got finished mounting the fairings on and finished putting all of the backing plates on for the Zeus fasteners. As you can see, the backing plates are riveted on, and then all that's required to put them on, just stick them in and twist them. On the rivets here they have this washer. You put that on this side of the bodywork. There's also a second washer, I'm not going to put it on yet, that you put on once you slide it through, and put it on the back side right there before it goes into the backing plate, and that will help keep the rivets or the fasteners on the bodywork after you do the quarter turn release and take, like if you're taking off the lower or the upper, then that will make it to where the fasteners actually stay with the bodywork. They're like a retention washer. The only thing left to do is to just mount the windscreen. The holes are already dimpled, so we'll just drill those and put the windscreen mounting screws in there, and that's it.